When I address the situation in the Middle East, it's often to discuss instability, terror, or other threats to the United States and its partners like Israel. Those threats still exist, but I'm very glad to be speaking today about peace breaking out. And it's breaking out more quickly than we can even stage the official ceremonies to memorialize the diplomatic achievements. A few weeks ago, with major help from the United States and the Trump administration, Israel and the United Arab Emirates reached the first Arab-Israel peace deal in 26 years. The Abraham Accord is named for the shared religious roots that Christians, Jews, and Muslims all hold in common. It will make the UAE just the third Arab nation and the very first in the Gulf to normalize relations with Israel. In the words of Prime Minister Netanyahu, full and official peace, full diplomatic agreement with embassies, investment, commerce, tourism, and direct flights between Tel Aviv and Dubai and Abu Dhabi. We've come a long way, Mr. President, a long way indeed. What a moment. Far-sighted leaders in both countries made sacrifices to make this deal possible. Prime Minister Netanyahu and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed understand that both Arabs and Israelis will benefit from the peace and prosperity that tearing down barriers can bring. America will also benefit from these two regional friends working more closely together and reducing tensions across a challenging region. Now, to be sure, work is not finished, and no single step like this should be confused for an overnight miracle. In this case, we in Congress have an obligation to review any U.S. arms sales package linked to the deal. As we help our Arab partners defend against growing threats, we must continue ensuring that Israel's qualitative military edge remains unchallenged. But the winds of change are blowing, Mr. President, and they're bringing good news for peace all across the region. Of course, a few extreme voices, perhaps correctly sensing that their moment is slipping away, are not at all happy. A predictable cast of characters wasted no time condemning the agreement and branding the UAE as traitors to the Arab or Muslim world. But unlike Iranian clerics or al-Qaeda terrorists, everyone who's actually living in the 21st century is celebrating this major progress. This major step forward is being documented in a signing ceremony at the White House tomorrow. But in just the couple of weeks that have elapsed between the announcement of the Abraham Accord and the official ceremony tomorrow, another Arab state has joined the parade toward peace. On Friday, September the 11th, Israel and Bahrain announced their agreement to open formal diplomatic relations. After Egypt, Jordan, and the UAE, this makes the fourth historic step toward normalization by Israel's Arab neighbors. Along with President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu and King Hamad of Bahrain called the agreement, quote, a historic breakthrough to further peace in the Middle East. And indeed, reports suggest that still more Arab states may not be far behind. This is a new course with the potential to fundamentally change the Middle East. Dennis Ross, a former senior diplomatic advisor to President Obama and a longtime practitioner of the peace process, wrote just yesterday that these agreements are bona fide breakthroughs that are changing the political landscape of the Middle East and the Israel-Palestine stalemate for the better. That's Dennis Ross from the Obama administration. That's how former Obama administration officials are praising the Trump administration's successes. I'm grateful for this administration's work to encourage peace. I'm proud of this historic opportunity that American leadership and diplomacy has made possible. Now, Mr. President, on a totally different message, I had hoped, and Republicans had hoped, that the American people had hoped that the Senate would be spending this week finishing up another bipartisan agreement on coronavirus relief. We want to get hundreds of billions more dollars into the pipeline for kids, for jobs, for health care. But unfortunately, Senate Democrats chose to block it all. Our Democratic colleagues voted against hundreds of billions of dollars to help Americans fight the virus. This wasn't even a vote on final passage, just a procedural vote to break the Democratic leader's filibuster and move forward with something. Senate Democrats nevertheless filibustered the aid. And then just a few short days later, they went right back to signaling that a Democratic Senate majority paired with a President Joe Biden would abolish the filibuster and permanently vandalize this institution to more easily force radical change on the country. This threat to permanently disfigure the Senate has been the latest growing drumbeat in the modern Democratic Party's war against our governing institutions. There was former Senator Reid starting the nuclear exchange back in 2013. There have been years of unprecedented tactics to try and deny President Trump the government the people elected. There's been the least fair, least thorough, and most rushed impeachment inquiry in modern history. And now, Mr. President, the most shameless hypocrisy. Senate Democrats happily used the filibuster to block coronavirus relief and Senator Tim Scott's police reform bill. At the very same time, they're conspiring to destroy that very tool so they can ram through their radical agenda if they ever win power. Grade A hypocrisy, nothing more. We've had former President Obama call for, quote, eliminating the filibuster, another Jim Crow relic. About 1 month after his party used it to kill Senator Tim Scott's police reform bill. We have some of former Vice President Biden's allies in the Senate daydreaming about ending the filibuster, even as they themselves used the filibuster to kill pandemic relief for working families. Democrats want completely different sets of rules depending on whether or not they hold power. Different set of rules depending upon whether they hold power. They want to assert minority rights when they have the minority and steamroll them if they get a majority. Here's NBC News. Democratic insiders are assembling a coalition behind the scenes to wage an all-out war on the Senate filibuster. Veteran party operatives, activist groups, and supportive senators are coordinating message and strategy. This takes measuring the drapes to a new level. The Democratic leader and his colleagues aren't just measuring the drapes, they're calculating how much kerosene it would take to burn the drapes down. They aren't just threatening to pass radical policies like Medicare for none or the Green New Deal. No. The far left wants to hotwire democracy itself. Things like packing the Supreme Court with new seats or packing the Senate by handing out new statehood to one individual city. I said it a few months ago, today's Democrats have lost patience with playing by the rules and want to wage war on the rule book itself. They're saying as much out loud. Perhaps our colleagues think promising a shameless power grab is the only way to energize their radical far-left base. But the real effect is to make the stakes in these issues completely and totally clear to the American people. The framers designed the Senate to be the country's firewall against ill-considered and radical change. That's what the Senate was all about from the beginning. If our Democratic friends have concluded their worst ideas could never clear the high bar, if they think their ideas could never clear the high bar, it's their bad ideas that need to be scrapped, not the core checks and balances of our government.